Get ready, Ohio. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is coming to the Buckeye State. And to kick things off, you can get started with $100 in free bets as an early sign-on bonus. Plus, when you sign up today with promo code OHIO, you'll be all set for when FanDuel goes live in Ohio. Then you can bet on all your favorite teams and all your favorite sports with $100 in free bets. Just download FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Ohio. Bonus issued in non-withdrawable free bets that expire 7 days after FanDuel accepts its first real money sports wager in Ohio. 1/1/23. Unique user identity verification required. Offer ends on the go-live date. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ohio, this is your chance to get in on the action. Join today with promo code OHIO.
My name is Brian Tome. I'm not your average pastor, and this isn't your average podcast. Join me and millions of other listeners growing spiritual muscles far away from what your mother knows with their quilted Bible cover case. Search The Aggressive Life with Brian Tome wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to another Britflicks.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today I've got with me writer Eleonora Mignoli.
Thank you. Hi.
I got in touch with you because you wrote a beautiful short summary on Twitter called 10 Things I Wish They'd Taught Me in Film School, which I thought would make a fascinating conversation on the Britflicks podcast, which we'll go through, and we'll do it in the 5x5 minute format. You've kindly paired things up into packages of 2. But before we go into that, do you want to talk about what you've been doing as a writer of late and what work's been picking up? You know, you've got a commission for a feature film, you've got a co-written feature in advanced stages of finance. And do you want to tell us what's been happening?
Yeah. So, 22 has been a pretty good year for me.
Good.
I got commissioned, as you said, for a drama feature by a company called Odelay Films. And it was a very sort of like nice experience, you know, when you just like click with people.
Mm-hmm.
And last year also, I was sort of like approached by another company, which is called Paguro Films. And I co-wrote on a film that has already been on the Biennale College program and the European Genre Forum.
Excellent.
And so they are like in the financing phase. There is a director, there is like actors. So it is really cool. It's a really cool project. And there is another one that I can't really talk about that much, but you know, touch wood, that's another commission that might happen. And you know, that's something that people might see before I get like white hair in the television. So, but you know the industry never.
I do.
Never certain, you know. So we don't know. And I just want to say, kind of like give a little bit of a shout out because I was selected for 2 talent schemes this year. One is the Cerimania's Writers Campus, and the other one is Future Film. And I think they were both really, really good programs with amazing people. And Future Film is pretty new. And Series Mania is not really well known in the UK. So
where is that one?
So it's in France. It's basically the biggest festival for TV shows in Europe, like Europe, Brexit Europe. And they're both really cool. It's been really amazing to be part of it.
And what is the future one? Where's that one at?
So it's called Future Film Incubator. And it's really about sort of what the name is. So VR, virtual production. So there were like 16 projects selected to be part of the incubator. I was one of those.
And where's that one? Where's that based?
That's in London.
Okay.
I mean, we did a lot of like sessions online, so it was very inclusive.
Cool.
And it was just like a wonderful experience. So, you know, just putting it out there for people.
Thanks for sharing all that with us. That's very, very good. So let's get on to the 10 things I wish they'd taught me in film school. And like I say, we're going to do it in the 5x5 minute format. So you've kindly paired them up. So for those that haven't heard this format before, at the end of 5 minutes, there'll be an alarm and that will sound like this. So then we're clear that time is up. It's just a polite reminder for us to end that section and move on to the next one. It's not a shut up message. It's just that I'm a terrible host, and I'd rather use a passive aggressive tool of an alarm than I would try and stop someone talking. So without further ado, does that all clear to you?
Yes.
Perfect.
Good.
Well, let's start at the top. You've paired up. Networking is a long-term gain, and getting an agent is just the first step on the ladder. So what is it about those two elements that you wish they'd taught you at film school?
I'm just going to say something before I start, which is basically one of the reasons I wrote this list is because it's been like 10 years since I did film school. And I thought it was kind of like a good time to reflect on what I learned. So, this is how the list came about. Considering those two sort of suggestions, I think they are like the biggest takeaway sort of that I have from my experience, especially the networking one. So my experience was that when I started out trying to be a paid writer, I knew that like people are really, who give you the chances to be successful and, to have jobs. But what I did not expect was somehow how long it was going to take, to build those, not only the network, but also the relationship with those people. Because at the beginning, I tended to go to networking and maybe pitching myself very hard and trying to talk about my projects. And then there was this a little bit of level of disappointment at the end of the day when I was starting out, because, you do all of these events and then you come home and nothing happens. But what happened to me is that I tried to stay in touch with people. And then maybe 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, something comes up and that person either gives you a job or, knows somebody that they put you in touch with. And because you've stayed in touch with that person, they stop sort of seeing you as somebody who wants something from them. Mm-hmm. And now they see you as somebody that has shown they showed that they are very determined and very serious about this industry, right? Mm-hmm. And what they want to do. So I think if you start out networking and you approach people not with the idea of pitching something to them, but with the idea that, okay, this is the first step in a very long relationship, that's what's gonna make it less frustrating for you to start with, and maybe even kind of like better in the long run. So this and other thing about the agent, it's very much connected to this. So I got my agent, I think, a couple of years ago now, and we have a lovely relationship, and it definitely changes thing. I think it's true that when you get an agent, doors that were like really closed before, they suddenly open up. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you still have to do a lot of work. You still have to hustle. What you have now is an ally, basically. If you got a good agent, this is a person that's going to support you. I'm talking UK agents, right?
Yeah, sure.
Not US. It's a little bit different. So they're going to especially support you in your contracts. They're going to try and send you out to people. But at the same time, again, things take time. They might get you 15 general meetings that you could have not gotten before by yourself, mm-hmm. With like important companies. But this general meeting is not just going to be, you're going to have this person in your agenda now, so you can sort of get back to them. But it's going to take a lot of time again. So it's a lot of work. It's still a lot of work. It's just like done. I mean, some people are really lucky. They get an agent, they sell the script, they become super famous, and their career is launched. But for like normal human being, and I think it's safer maybe to see it as a bit of a like longer route, and then be surprised by how quick things are going and how successful you are, than sort of expect to, the moment you get an agent, bam, you're into a writer's room.
I remember, I won't name the agent because it's not, I'm not sure if it was exactly him, but I remember having a chat with an agent about this, and he was saying that, what a lot of writers don't always understand, apart from like, there's obviously going to be the lottery winning things where someone's got a sellable script, it goes to market, it sells, and everyone's happy. But for most agents taking on a writer that was unrepped before, it's a 2 to 3 year period before they even see a return. So they're taking a gamble on you as much as you're taking a gamble on yourself for your writing career. So this is why it's difficult to, it's almost like this is why it's difficult to get an agent, because it's still work for them. It's not like they've got the door held shut until you arrive.
Yeah, exactly. And, what, I forgot. I wanted to say something, I forgot. But yeah, definitely that's it.
Well, there we go. There's 5 minutes.
Good. Right on time.
The second pairing that you've given me is working in development is probably the best day job for a screenwriter, and coping with rejection, brackets, or silence, is the most important skill you'll have to learn. Tell us more.
So I'm going to start from the second one because it's very simple, but it's just like so hard. And it's been probably one of the hardest thing I had to learn in this industry. And like everybody that I talk to, all the other writers that I talk to, they sort of like have the same issue, especially at the beginning, which is people that are like sort of in the industry, let's say, development execs and producers, they're very busy. Like they have crazy inboxes, so it is unfair, but it's also the reality of it that especially when you're starting out and you're reaching out to people, they can either never get back to you, and that's kind of normal. They can maybe say, "Oh, I'm going to get back to you in 2 weeks," and they never get back to you, or they get to you back to you in like 6 months. And this is very hard to deal with because people, I tended at the beginning to go like, "Oh my God, they don't like me. They hate me. They ignore me. I'm not worth it." But it is just how the industry is. It's just like there is a definite number of minutes in a day. And it is the unfortunate truth that, as an unknown writer with whatever project you have, you're going to be at the bottom of their list. Like they might absolutely love you as a person, have a meeting, love you. And then simply they got stuff to do, right? And it is not about you. It might be about you only if you send a very unpolite email, or, if you send a dear and then kind of bulk email, and, that doesn't really work. But I'm a spreadsheet person. I kind of keep track of everything I do and now. And I have a pretty solid 5% response rate to cold emails, which means that if I send out 100 emails, this is what happened when I was trying to get an agent, right? I sort of went with the let's try everybody that can work approach, which is this is worse for the US because there is a lot of people out there, and like 5%. So out of 100 people, 5 people got back to me, and the same things happens, sort of all the time. It changes when you have a relationship. So if you start kind of having a relationship with people, they will get back to you sooner. But yeah, so polite reminders, like, I have a 3 sort of like 1 email and 2 reminders kind of policy. So, and I wait months between those things, right? Yeah. But if people don't get back to me, even then, I don't really take it personally. It's just how it works. That's it. That's really it.
I mean, it's not the same industry, but I remember I interviewed a woman that run an art gallery, and she actually worked on the principle of the first time she gets an email from someone she doesn't know, she might make a mental note of it, but she's never replying. So if somebody's saying, "Come to my art show, it's going to be great," because they want to get a show at her gallery. And for her, it was the 3rd email she gets from them telling them that they're doing something else will be where it's registered. Yeah. So in a way, I mean, it's a long game, but you could be inquiring about your 3rd screenplay with the same agent, and suddenly they go, "Hold on a minute, this is the 3rd time, and it's a different project." Yeah.
So it's not personal. It's just how it works. It's just like a numbers game. And the first thing was, forgot about.
Working in development is probably the best.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So if you can, I'm going to be very brief, but like, I think because becoming a working writer, and getting paid for it, it's so hard. And, I think that if you can do at least just even like 1 year of work in development, which means either as script reader or as an assistant to development exec, even more, or a script editor, you will learn. So the benefits of those things is like, first of all, you learn what producers, like people that pay writers, want. You learn what they're looking for. And especially you're going to make contacts in a way that you're not the person asking for something, right? You're going to make contacts with people that sort of matter. But when they get to know you, you're not a writer, you're like a peer, right? So you get to establish a little bit of the relationship. And it's sort of like, in my opinion, this might be wrong, but it's kind of a given that a script editor might have a script, and then you just have to wait for the right moment to sort of, when you have established a connection. But, if you have to earn money somehow, maybe that is a good way of earning money, to start earning money, because you learn so much about screenwriting. If I could, I would have, if I known this, that's the road I would have taken, right?
No, that's...
and it might, yeah. What I wanted to say was like, it might not work for everybody. It might be that in your city, there isn't a production company that you like, that you want to work with, or, the downside of this is that it's going to take a lot of time and energy to work in development. So you might see that you don't have time to write. But even if you do it for a couple of years, the amount of industry knowledge that you get, it's so much. It's so worth it. So I would say, and you get paid. So
no. And I think if that's not being sort of taught at film school, then it's sage advice, really, because I've heard it elsewhere on podcasts, that get to be a writing assistant, get to be this, be alongside the people that are doing it and meet the people that are getting things made. That's going to build your relationships much better and more concretely than trying to get someone's attention with a cold email, which obviously still is a method, part of the hustle. That doesn't stop. But obviously, if you can meet people and just be having coffee with them because you're working on the same project.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this is the advice I'd give myself.
Sound. Now, the next two on the list of things that you wish they'd taught you at film school is writing actual scripts is only a tiny part of the job, and being original is almost impossible. Yeah.
So I think to be a writer, so you have to write a script, right? This is like your first step. The first thing you have to do.
It's a given.
It's a given, right? But when you start sort of like, when you have like your samples, let's say you have, if you're a genre writer, let's say you write horror and you just want to write horror, you have like your 2-3 samples, a pilot, a feature, whatever. But at that point, when you sort of like have a piece of writing that you've proven really works, then most of my time actually is spent either prepping like other docs that you need. So like one-pagers, pitch decks, outlines, treatments, and doing applications for things that are good for you. So residential, competitions, all of the things. And also a lot of time is writing. I spend a lot of time writing emails to like people that are in my spreadsheet. Let's say, if I have a new script, that is like days of me going through my emails and like, oh, this person has read the script, or they haven't read that script, or, they might be interested in this new idea or not. And that takes time because I go back and see, okay, what did I email them last? So I try to be very specific, and that takes time. So I write right now, let's say a couple of, proper screenplays every year. And that's not a lot of time that I spend actually writing a screenplay. The rest of the time is doing all these other things, because basically the screenplay, unless you want to sell it, you say, okay, I want to write 20 screenplays and flood the market and try to sell them, right? That's the strategy. There's an article about that, like wrote, 20 screenplays in 2 years, something like that. But my strategy is not like that. And, it's pointless to write full screenplays once you've proven that you can actually write, once you have a sample with your voice. And the other one, remind me, sorry?
Being original is almost impossible.
Oh, that is very, it's the internet, people. Like, in the 1800s, well, let's say, 50 years ago, there might have been another film out there that had a similar idea, plot, whatever to yours. But how many people would have seen it. You know, how much can you like Google something and say, oh, this is the same thing as mine, you know? But right now when I have ideas, I always like Google them. And sometimes I find that there is another film that it's already
gone
happened.
On for centuries. I remember I was at Cannes talking to a South African filmmaker, and I was telling him about my Norwegian horror film and about the folklore that I was drawing on that was from Norway. Yeah. And he went, we have exactly the same story in South Africa. Like right down, but it was exactly. the two stories were not connected. And this is like from centuries of like stories that are passed on from family to family, and they had exactly the equivalent story, but in a South African setting.
But you wouldn't have connected with a South African person, you know, 100 years ago or 50 years ago. You wouldn't have had that, like pre-internet, that connection would have been really hard to make. You know, so I think it is a reality that right now, like anything you write, the pool of people that might have done this same thing is basically billions of people, right? And there is a chance that somebody sees and it's like, oh my God, there is that South Korean show that has done exactly the same thing. And that happens, you know, that is simple because people tend to write the same stories. That happens. So it's sort of like hard to accept because still people want you to be original. And in a way, just kind of like, if it's very hard to be original, you know, just accept it and try to put your teeny tiny spin on it. And it's basically how you frame it, you know.
I was going to say, like, hopefully original means what does Eleonora sound like? You know, it's like...
Whether it's Kroger's Simple Truth Turkey or mac and cheese with Murray's English Cheddar or pie made with fresh Cosmic Crisp apples, there are many dishes we look forward to sharing during the holidays. And Kroger has all the fresh ingredients you need to turn today's holidays into tomorrow's memories. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Wingstop's doing what they do best, taking flavor to the next level. So when chicken sandwiches only came in spicy and plain, Wingstop said, nah, make it 12 flavors. Lemon pepper chicken sandwich, OG hot, mango habanero. You get the picture? Every famous Wingstop flavor. Now on a new Wingstop chicken sandwich. Try all 12 and find your favorite at Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings.
If you served in the Vietnam, Gulf War, or post-9/11 eras, you may be eligible for expanded VA benefits. A new law known as the PACT Act provides disability compensation, health care, free toxic exposure screenings, and more to veterans who are exposed to toxins during their military service. You can submit a claim for your PACT Act-related benefits now. Claims received by August 10, 2023 may be paid back to August 10, 2022. Visit va.gov/PACT to learn more and file your claim.
Exactly.
You know, that's the thing that's original, because I can't be you and you can't be me. So we've got to exploit what we've got.
Yeah. But, you know, it just might be hard that you maybe worked on a script for like 2 years and then something comes out on your YouTube channel or whatever. And it's like,
I see what you're saying. So don't get too downhearted if something comes along, which is your prize.
It happened to me so many times, you know. It happened to me that I had an idea and I told like my agent, and like 2 days later she goes, oh, but you know, there is that movie that has done exactly the same thing. I'm like, So I move on. What I do is like, I move on. I move to the next.
So in terms of your, the writing actual scripts, a tiny patty day job, just going back to what you were saying before about having your spreadsheets. So from a timing point of view, what have you found worked from the point when you send... We'll finish this point because it's something I wanted to pick up. When you send out that first cold email and you've got your 2 reminder policy that you have, when you send that first email, when are you sending the reminder and when are you sending the second reminder?
6 weeks.
So 6 weeks for the first reminder, and then 6 weeks.
And then a month. Yeah, another 6 to 2 months. That's like normal timing.
Yeah. No. I just think for the listener, just to understand that this plays into your other part, which is it's a long game. You know.
Yeah.
As much as you've got to be patient and handle rejection, also.
I had emails getting back to me in 6 months. Like I had 6 months between my email that I sent out, and then the producer came back 6 months later. Was like, I'm sorry, I just got back. You know, this was like in my folder. I just needed to get back. So it's like. It's normal, you know. When you start actively working on them on a project, it changes. But if you're not on a project with them, it takes time.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And also, like, they might not reply to your reminders on that specific question, but they might get back to you if you come back later with another project or another thing. Then they might get back to you to that one. So if they keep not replying, then
there's a difference. I mean,
don't bother them anymore.
yeah. But but it's a good thing if you're going to send someone 3 emails where you've given them more than enough time every time to reply, then it's probably not worth losing any sleep and also not putting too much value on them as the next step in your career, as it were.
No. I always tell myself, like, beware of what you wish for. And it's a hard rule that I have. Like, I did this mistake in the past. Like, I kind of worked with people that, not that I didn't like them, but I didn't know who they were, just for the sake of, like, I need to do something, I need to produce something, I need to get something out there. And because I didn't know them before, it was simply that we didn't click. They were like awesome people and awesome professional. We just didn't have the same style.
Yeah.
But I was working with them and I had to work with them and I had to finish the project. And it's like, filmmaking is already so hard that you want to be working basically with your best pals. That's your goal.
Absolutely. Right then. So your fourth pairing of things you wish to taught you at film school is being consistently productive is the best way to get noticed. And the best thing you can do to advance your career is to finish a long form script.
Yeah, I mean, it's like slow and steady wins the game kind of thing. And I find that for me, as original writing, I try to have a new piece every year. And I know there are people that like write much faster than that. But for me, I write quite quickly, but it's the time that it takes to actually, write the script, send it out, get feedback, write another. I mean, like a finished, polished thing.
I know what you're talking about.
Because I think there is a fine balance between sort of like, so let's put it this way, until you have that first piece of writing that kind of, and I don't mean like a first draft of the first script, right? I mean, the first script that is finished enough and good enough that you can send out to people.
Yeah.
They're two different things, okay?
Yeah.
But, when you're like confident and when you receive good feedback and then you have that first piece of writing, that is what you can actually, and I say long form because unfortunately, again, when I did film school, they were like, oh, do a short film, put it into competitions, they're going to get an agent. Like short films, they don't get you anywhere. It's simply because everybody can do a short film right now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you needed a camera, you needed, a lot of stuff. Now you can just, I know it's boring, but like, I'm not even saying get a phone, but even like renting a good camera, it doesn't cost as much.
No. I mean, I think as well, film is a director's format and short film can be a director's calling card, but it can rarely be a writer's calling card.
No. So for a writer, you need that long form. And for long form, I mean like either a pilot or a feature film, depending sort of like what you prefer. But at the same time, so let's say, okay, you've got your amazing script right now and you start sending it around to agent, producers, whatever. And maybe, super lucky, it gets picked up, amazing, produced, you win an Oscar, great, fantastic. But what might happen is that you start getting connections, you start getting responses, and people will ask you, okay, what else have you got? And if you sort of like write something new and, and you can send something new to competitions and stuff, it kind of keeps you relevant. So this is why I try to have one original thing. And a good thing about writing is that it doesn't get old. You could have a 10-year-old script and maybe you're not pitching out as much, blah, blah, blah. But then maybe you get the right producer that is looking exactly for that. And you can like pick it out of your dustbin or whatever and dust it out and send it to them. So like writing never gets old, and the more original pieces you sort of like collected, the better it is. And it's also really good. Like, you have relationships. So you cannot keep sending them the same script again and again. You have to say, okay, I've done this new thing. Are you interested? And even if they don't want that new thing, they are aware of you as a writer and it keeps those connections. So in my opinion, writing is like a tool to get the connection, because at the end of the day, it's the connections that are going to put bread on your table.
And also, like you say, without the single long form script, never mind the multiple ones, no one's ever going to be able to judge your ability to write until they can see that long form script that you've done.
No, I mean, it's a harsh truth, but ideas and talent are very cheap. Everybody has them.
Yeah.
Like everybody has an idea. But the thing that people want to see is like actually that full script, feature script, and how good it is. You know, they need to hear your voice, and they need to be able to know that you can hold that length. You can hold that structure. You know, you can do the whole thing. I mean,
I've got a script that in that sort of never expires sort of mold. In its lifetime, it's been a period drama set in Manchester. It's been a contemporary story set in New Orleans. It's been set in Detroit, and now it's back in Manchester as a contemporary story. Just kept kept developing. And when you go back to it with a fresh pair of eyes, you can see other opportunities, and it's still your script. So,
yeah, absolutely. You know, so there is no such a thing as wasted writing.
Never.
In my classes, I always say, like, remember that somebody pitched Sharknado and it was a huge success. So you never know.
No.
Like, you know, the film about sharks.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Well, and the rest of them. I mean, there's a whole industry of CGI.
There's a franchise.
Sharks. What was your? I presume, did you do a first feature script while you were still at film school, or is it something you did after?
No, I had a first feature, which is in my drawer, because it's like massive budget sci-fi Star Wars level of budget. So
fair enough. Come back to that another day.
Yeah, it's a good story, but I need to be like, you know, a little bit more advanced in my career to pitch that one.
Cool. Right then, your final two are short films will not make your career, and competitions are a tool, not a goal. Do you want to talk to those? I mean, you've already touched on the short films. Do you want to expand on that?
So, I mean, I think short film is sort of like if you're starting, so let's put it this way. If you want to be a professional writer, you don't have to do short film. Okay? There's no hard rule that you have to do short film. You can sit down and decide to, and when I say professional writer, I mean like film or TV, you know, because that's what I sort of do.
Yeah.
But there is radio, there is theater. So there is a lot of other kinds of, you know, there is gaming, there is VR, there is a lot of other kind of writings. But you don't have to do short films, right? But it is a good way to start out, because, put it very simply, you know, if you have a not so good short film, that's going to be, 2 weeks of your time, and you learn and you get feedback on that. But as you very rightly say, you know, short films are a director's tools. So they're really good if you're going to be a writer-director. They're really good if you sort of like want to build relationship with directors, you know. So, you know, I've written a few short films. Some of them I directed. Some of them I had other directors direct. But it's very, very unlikely, unless, you know, it's an extraordinarily well-written short film, or it's it's very good.
I mean, I'm thinking out loud. I think, you know, you could, if you're a comedy writer, for example, you could do a brilliant comedic gag, which obviously short film is set for. So you could at least practice, but it becomes practice as much as anything else. I mean, I remember my first short film, it got just edited as an assembly edit when it was first shot. And there was a big chunk of it, and it was a really simple idea. It was a more or less a monologue I'd written, so it was like a talking head moving, but over a space of time. And the guy who did the rough edit got rid of just forgot a chunk of the filming. But when I watched it, it made no difference. So it was almost like I learned how much more efficient it could be just from that little experience on the film.
Yeah, I find that like short films for a writer, in a way, like they're a really good exercise. If you write short films and you sort of like give them out to direct, you know, then this film then exists, then, you know, they're going to do it through the festival. So it's really good for like your networking and social media life and all of those things, you know, so, you know, do them. I don't think that short films nowadays can get you an agent unless they're like incredibly good and they want, like, you know, if you write a short film that wins a BAFTA, then by all means, they're going to get you an agent.
Yeah.
But all the other, like, you know, people who get their short films selected to the whatever festival, that's good, but that's not going to advance your career that much. And in competition, so moving on to the competition thing. So I have entered like, I think by now, hundreds of competitions. And definitely I would recommend it. Like, do it, especially if you're starting out, do it. But I won 3 competitions by now. Yeah. And even though I do think that I would have not gotten an agent without like all of my achievements, because, of course, they look at the CV and they go like, oh, she plays here and there and there. But I think competition are like just a tool, right? So I'm going to tell you what competition are good for me. Okay, so the best thing that competition do is that they tell you how good a script is. So if you send your script to like 10 or 15 competition, and you always go for the early birds entry. Like there is no point in waiting and spending more money for it. So like, you submit it to 10 competition, you don't place, not even once. It means that the script needs more work. It's like, if you place finalists or quarter finalists or semi-finalists, you know that script is starting to get good enough. You don't have to win. Like winning is just luck. It's just like down to taste. But so I use competition as a tool, first of all, to like gauge where my script is at. And if it just gets to quarterfinals and semifinals, I know it still needs more work. The other thing, of course, that competitions do is, yes, they are like a talking point. So every time that I place like in finalists or, finals up, I would like look at the judges in that competition and say, hey, I was a finalist. You probably read my script. Do you want to have a conversation about it? So that's just like another way of like networking.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I know that, like some people who won or placed, especially like in like the bigger competitions, you get approached. Like I know a person, a good friend of mine, she got her manager and she didn't even win the competition. She was just like a finalist. But what happens, especially in the US, is that managers tend to be judges on this competition. And they're basically using them to like recruit writers. So you never know. It's a little bit like a chance, Yeah,
I mean, I've seen the same thing with independent production companies. It's a good sift, especially if you're a genre producer and you're at a genre writing competition, you're getting a filtered system on lots of scripts, so you don't have to read the dross.
Exactly. So, it is worth the money. I'm just going to do a little bit of a plug. So this is for US competitions, but I think most of us know Coverfly by now. And I think they're really good in what they're doing. And they have a lot of free resources. And they also have a fee waiver program. You have to prove that you can't afford entries. But what happened to me is because like spreadsheets, by now I think the money that I won through competition is sort of like paid back for all my competition entries. So, it kind of worked out well enough for me. But yeah, and also the other thing that competition do, and then I'm going to stop, they give you something to look forward to, if they give you that little dopamine of like, I'm a quarterfinalist, I'm a semi-finalist, and as this sometimes can be a very lonely industry, and it kind of helps you build that community. And then you're going to see the same names. If you're in Screenwriter Twitter as well, you're going to see like the same 20 people sort of like, because you know them and they place as well with that script, and you kind of, so it's a really good, nice moment of like connection, some competition, they do something, they actually get you somewhere. But I would say never enter a competition thinking, oh my God, I'm going to win, I'm going to be famous. Yeah.
No. I think that's sound advice. Well, look, we've got to the end of your 5x5 bits of advice of things you wish you'd done at film school. I'm just going to go through the headlines of the 10 things that was. We had the first pair was networking is a long-term game. Getting an agent is just the first step on the ladder. Then we had working in development is probably the best day job for a screenwriter. And coping with rejection or silence is an important skill you'll have to learn. Writing actual scripts is only a tiny part of the job. Being original is almost impossible. Being consistently productive is the best way to get noticed. The best thing you can do to advance your career is finish that long-form script, whether that be feature or pilot. And then short films will not make your career. They can be useful, but they're not going to make it. And competitions are a tool, not a goal. I mean, that's a brilliant thing that you shared there on Twitter. I'm glad I got a chance to talk to you about it in more detail. Thank you.
No, it was very lovely. It was a very spontaneous kind of Twitter thing, and it's been very lovely to be able to chat a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest with you, it's interesting as part of, I think social media can be obviously a cesspool of horribleness, but I've been fortunate enough with the podcast to find the positives in the islands of goodness that are on Twitter somewhere. So I'm glad we've been able to have this conversation. You've said you're doing some work, but I didn't. What kind of scripts are you writing? Where is your passion? What sort of stories are your passion?
So, I love genre film. My love is fantasy and sci-fi, and most of my samples are that. But when it comes to my working life, I'm a bit of a genre agnostic person. I think writing is a craft. So I'm fun in writing in very different genres. I've got sci-fi, I got a teen drama, I got a sort of horror-y thing, and the one that I can talk about is in a completely other genre as well. This is just stuff that I'm actively working on,
Yeah.
But yeah, my heart is in YA genre stuff. So,
and just as a thing that just as a from a fan of that, then what would be what's the thing that you wish you could have written if you could have had your screenplay by you? What YA film would be the one you'd love to have your name on?
All of them. No, I mean, it's kind of everybody says that, but I think Arrival is definitely one of the best sci-fi films of the century, probably. I
agree.
There is I think it's a Polish movie which I saw recently, which I don't know if I could have never written that, but it's just stuck in my mind, and it's called something. It's Never Gonna Snow Again or something like that. I don't remember the title. And then I'm a massive fan of Arcane, which is the TV show that's come out recently. So I've been stalking executives from that show, kind of going oh, so maybe in the 10th series I'm gonna have a credit. But no, all of them, probably all of them. The list is very long, Sandman and all of them.
Well, look, thanks for sharing that with us, and thank you for giving us your time on the Britflicks podcast.
No, thank you so much.
Get ready, Ohio. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is coming to the Buckeye State. And to kick things off, you can get started with $100 in free bets as an early sign-on bonus. Plus, when you sign up today with promo code OHIO, you'll be all set for when FanDuel goes live in Ohio. Then you can bet on all your favorite teams and all your favorite sports with $100 in free bets. Just download FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Ohio. Bonus issued in non-withdrawable free bets that expire 7 days after FanDuel accepts its first real money sports wager in Ohio. 1/1/23. Unique user identity verification required. Offer ends on the go live date. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ohio, this is your chance to get in on the action. Join today with promo code OHIO.
If you served in the Vietnam, Gulf War, or post 9/11 eras, you may be eligible for expanded VA benefits. A new law known as the PACT Act provides disability compensation, health care, free toxic exposure screenings, and more to veterans who are exposed to toxins during their military service. You can submit a claim for your PACT Act-related benefits now. Claims received by August 10, 2023 may be paid back to August 10, 2022. Visit va.gov/PACT to learn more and file your claim.